Welcome, everyone. I now call to order this work session of the Anchorage Assembly regarding Anchorage Equal Rights Commission 2021 Annual Report. It is Friday, September 16, 2022. We are noticed from 1 to 2 p.m. today. I want to note also that the report for this work session is available online at muni.org/worksessions. And with that, we will start with Assembly member introductions.
Pete Peterson.
Forrest Dunbar.
Suzanne LaFrance, and on the phone, Ms. Allard,
Jamie Allard.
Mr. Constant,
Here.
Mr. Rivera,
Felix Rivera.
Mr. Solt,
Randy Solt here.
and Mr. Volan.
Happy to be here.
Thank you. We are also joined by individuals from the Anchorage Equal Rights Commission. And so if you would go ahead and introduce yourself. Yes. Yep. Is it working? Oh, I'm going to take your finger off. Does it change?
Oh, there we go. Yes. Marie Husa, professional investigator, Anchorage Equal Rights Commission.
Keoki Kim, Executive Director, Anchorage Equal Rights Commission.
Thank you so much for being here today. With that, I will go ahead and turn it over to, great, Mr. Kim, welcome.
Thank you, and thank you for all for having me. And I wanted to start off the meeting by saying thank you for being Assembly members, because I think it's a great act of public service, and I personally appreciate that you take the time to do that for our city. I was appointed executive director or hired on August 8th. So I brought the former acting executive director to go through the 2021 annual report that was drafted with the prior executive director, Mitzi Anderson. I'll just tell you a little bit about myself before we start on that if you want, or I can reserve it to the end, whatever your preference. I've lived in Anchorage since 1995. I love Anchorage. I love Alaska. I'm deeply committed to Anchorage, Alaska, and the people and the businesses who employ people here. For 23 years, I ran a law firm, and I focused on raising my 6 children. And they're all raised now. My 4 sons are in the military, 2 Air Force, 2 Army, and my 2 daughters are in the private sector. And I wanted to focus on giving back to my community. In running my law firm, I developed skills in litigation and administration, and I wanted to try and give back to the community and the people here that I respect so much and enjoy being part of their community. So I'm focused on bringing those skills to the Anchorage Equal Rights Commission and helping it run efficiently and effectively and giving the taxpayers the absolute best value for their money. And I can talk more later, but we'll go ahead and get into the 2021 annual report. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Mr. Kim, and welcome.
Great. Well, as we set up the presentation, I'll go ahead and start. And so since this is for our annual report, again, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Marie Husa, and I have been a investigator for, well, I've been with the Muni for 16 years and started with the DHHS and first time at AERC with Barb, actually, as my great executive director. It was such an honor working for her. And then I went to AWU as a training officer, and now I was also a volunteer commissioner while I was at AWU as a training officer, and now I am back. So I am happy to present to you what we do, especially since we have some new assembly members. So hopefully this will give you an overview of exactly what it is we do and how we do it and what our reports, the numbers in there mean. So we are created from the charter, and I have the language here, Charter 17.01, that the Assembly shall create discrimination laws and have people to enforce it. So that's what we are. And so we enforce Title V, which prohibits discrimination. And I'll get into more details into what areas, because not all discrimination broadly is illegal. So there are certain ones that are legal under our jurisdiction within Title V. So that's what I will cover more, and our reports will show that. So other than Title V, we also have other laws that we also enforce. One of them is Title VII of the federal EEOC law, Federal Law on Discrimination, and also Americans with Disabilities Act. So we enforce those laws as well as Title V. And we do have a work share agreement with EEOC, meaning we do investigate complaints for them. And they have records of all that too, of our complaints. So who does this work of Title V? And again, I want to emphasize that all of this that we do, I tell our complainants, whoever calls us, it's everything we do is in Title V. And so Title V says that the Assembly, actually, we have a 9-member commission, and that is, so 9-member commission, and the commission, the mayor appoints subject to confirmation of the Assembly, and they are appointed for a 3-year term, and they can be reappointed. So right now in this chart that I have here are our commissioners. The date in parentheses is when their appointment started, and the expiration on them shows. So you'll see that we have a bunch who are whose terms expire, and I know most, if not all of them, have expressed interest in reappointment. And then we have 2 vacant seats as well. And the other side of that is the staff. So according to Title V as well, the commission appoints the executive director, actually hires, I know these are legal terms, I'm always careful with the meaning. So the commission hires the ED, the executive director, subject to the approval of the mayor. So I think we are very unique in that way, where our commission is involved in the hiring and firing of our executive director. And also the executive director then hires staff, and we have 1 executive assistant and 4 investigators. And how do we do our job? So how do we let people know we exist? Because the law will mean nothing if we are not enforcing, if people don't know it exists. So what we do, we have community education. Like I know Mitzi, our past ED, has joined the Small Business Administration for some training, where she trained small business members on what the laws are. Alaska Literacy Program, they have a program on how government works, and we are part of that, and other opportunities for community training. And of course, staff training as well, to make sure that we remain competent and that we are familiar with relevant laws. And so we attend training relevant to our jobs, and outreach as well. So we table a lot of in community events, collaborating with ASD, which the artwork you see here should be in our annual report. And we had a contest for 6th graders, and they submitted what equality means to them. And these are the artwork that was selected by the commission as the winners. And we also have a grant from EEOC for outreach this year, or last year, every year. And we created a video from that partnership. So here is, on the next slide, is our complaint process, which is in your annual report as well. But it's a brief overview, and I will take you to the steps quickly. So the first one is the complaint intake. That is when people call us to say, hey, I feel like I have been discriminated against. We ask them questions to determine whether whether their complaint falls within our jurisdiction. And Title V says that if it's not, we refer them to appropriate agencies or whoever can help them. Title V also requires us to make a record of the inquiries that we have. So the numbers there from 2021 then highlighted in yellow, that we had 385 inquiries. Among those, 72 were turned into a complaint. So that's what's jurisdictional to us. And so that's what that means. Next slide would be after a complaint is filed and we help the complainant file the complaint. After that, while we are objective and neutral, I tell complainants we do not side with anyone. We side with the law and make sure that it's followed. And so the first step, again, with the relevant titles right there, we're supposed to hold a fact-finding conference with both parties. That's exactly what that says. And then we go into the impartial investigation. Now, this complaint filing by basis, these are what's called the protected classes. They're protected because that's what's in Title V. And so here's a breakdown of the basis or how many cases were filed under each one. So race, the top three right there happens to be that first. So physical or mental disability looks like number one, then race and retaliation. And then for the next slide, the area of discrimination. So this one on the left of the chart is the areas where discrimination is prohibited. And here, employment really is the number one that we see. I think that's common within the last 5 years. And the rest you see as far as the number of complaints filed in each area. So this one is about the age of the cases. And so Title V as well tells us that we will investigate to the best of our abilities a complaint in 240 days. And if not, we need to let both parties know why not, what the reason is. And so in 2021, we had 38 over 240 days. And that's because of staff shortage and the effects of the pandemic still. We're adjusting to that. And then after we do an investigation, there will be a determination issued by investigators approved by the executive director, and it's either a substantial evidence of discrimination or no substantial evidence of discrimination. For case closed, so for 2021, we did close 97. And then the second table on the resolutions providing for elimination of discriminatory practices. That is what we have. So if you look at the chart up on top, where substantial evidence is, that means if we do find substantial evidence, then we engage with the respondent for a conciliation. And that's to get the remedies due to the complainant, because we're saying that there was substantial evidence of discrimination. So the dollar amount are the dollar amounts that we've received for either a predetermination settlement, and this one, predetermination, is a settlement made before an investigation, and including conciliations and other settlements or private settlements. So that's the amount of money that we had received total for 2021 for those reasons. And so, brings me to the last one. So just to tell you that after the complaint, if conciliation is agreed upon with the respondent, which in code as well gives us 45 days to do, the complaint is resolved. If not, there could be the respondent could request a public hearing, and that will be, the commission then is engaged into holding that public hearing. Now, on the other side, that's the complainant side that you see there as far as complainant may appeal for reconsideration. So if there's a no substantial finding of discrimination, the complainant, according to code as well, has 15 days upon receipt of notice of the determination to file reconsideration to the commission. And both parties have the option, if we've reached that point, to appeal to the Superior Court. So hopefully that kind of tells you what it is we do, and we'd appreciate your help in our outreach efforts, letting people know that we do have this municipal code in our community, and that we'd love to be able to help. And we're ready for your questions, should you have any. Oh, can I add something? Sorry, I take it back. We do have brochures as well if you are interested in 5 different languages. And this was back when the school district issued their top 5 languages. So that's a while back. And so we have them in Spanish, Korean, Hmong, Samoan, Tagalog from the Philippines, and Russian. And I'm really done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Husa.
Great.
Do members have any questions? Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I was looking under the complaint filings by area of discrimination, and I noticed that it says that there, under practices of the municipality of Anchorage, there was 1 complaint in 2021, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering what practice they were
Oh.
complaining about, if you happen to remember that.
Yes, and mostly without disclosing the parties, it's really anything that the municipality may provide. Public transportation. They're not happy with how they were treated. They come into City Hall and something happened. They were mistreated. It's just really any services provided in any department of the municipality. And again, the key here is it within our jurisdiction? Was there discrimination that happened, and were they harmed? Because that's where a lot of our work with the municipal ombudsman kind of overlaps, but we need to determine. That's why at the intake process, we ask questions as far as what really, what happened, and does it fall within our jurisdiction?
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Mr. Dunbar?
Now, apologies if you already said this and I missed it, but does your jurisdiction include complaints about the Anchorage Police Department?
No, that's one I did not include. If there is files that if it involves criminal charges, that's out of our jurisdiction, as well as federal and state. Of course, they have their own. So yeah, no, if there's any litigation involved, it's not within our jurisdiction.
So rather than criminal charges being filed, let's say that someone was pulled over, for example, by an APD officer and felt that there was racial motivation there. There weren't any charges filed against them. Would you be the right forum, or somewhere else?
Yes, well, we have the Anchorage Commission, ACPRTF. Did I get that acronym right? Anchorage Community Police Relations Task Force.
Oh, right.
We are no
Yeah.
longer providing support for them. We used to, but usually if it's those issues, they are referred to them. We still refer to them. It's a community issue that they investigate with the police.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Dunbar. Do any members on the phone have questions? I was wondering if Ms. Husa and Mr. Kim, you could talk a little bit about how you work with the Ombudsman's office. And I don't know if Mr. Hess, if you'd want to join that conversation, but just in how you work together or your different jurisdictions and
Yes.
yeah, how that
sure.
works.
Did you want to start? Oh, thanks. We do, I know we refer, I do, refer us in my experience. If it is non-jurisdictional and if I think it is within the ombudsman's jurisdiction, then yeah, we do, because again, with Title V, we are supposed to refer parties to whoever we think might have jurisdiction. And I know that we've had callers too that were referred from their office. Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Kim, did you want to add anything?
Not on that topic.
Okay. Do members have other questions?
No.
I'll turn it back to you two if there's anything else you want to share with us.
Yes, I just thought I'd tell you that one of my concerns, I came over from the Alaska State Commission for Human Rights. And one of the things we saw at the state level was a lot of staff losses because it's difficult to compete with the private sector. And so one of my focuses here is when you lose staff, especially staff that are highly experienced, have a lot of training, and integrate well as a cohesive team, you can sometimes use years of efficiency. And I was very happy when I first came on. I came on August 8th, and I think maybe 7 days later, 8 days later, I had the budget meeting with the mayor. And I was very happy to be able to go in there and not increase my budget at all. We have an operating non-labor budget of about $21,000 and use it to upgrade our equipment and just do all kinds of little tweaks. I mean, I only had 7 days, so I'm going to work on this over the year. But one of the things I was really happy about is the Dunbar and Quinn Davidson Amendment number 3, line number 6, that gave us the ability to promote one of my investigators. She had topped out as an investigator 1, and I was able to promote her to investigator 2 and give her a lot more steps to advance up without having to be concerned about, this is a person who's topped out. She's very good. She's very self-motivated. She's very sharp and just a great value for the taxpayers. And I don't want to be a training ground for the private sector and lose value. So I want to thank the Assembly and the Assembly members for recognizing the value of holding on to staff and releasing funds. So it was basically right there for me to utilize at the perfect time. Thank you.
Great. That's wonderful to hear.
If I can add something, I just got confirmation today. I think I forgot to share with Mr. Kim. Our budget, according to OMB, from 2021 was 0.14% of the municipality's general budget. And for the work we do and for the impact in the community or who we can help in the community, I thought that was striking and noteworthy. So, thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from members? Mr. Dunbar?
So I noticed, and again, I got a little distracted there, unfortunately. So, but I noticed in obviously from 2019 to 2020, there was a sort of precipitous decline in employment claims, or and then which could be, logically it could be pandemic related. Maybe people weren't at work as much or what have you, physically at work. But then, wait, if you go back to the last page, it stayed low in 2021. I'm wondering in 2022, we're not done with the year, but have we seen an uptick, or is that a persistent change where for whatever reason, and I kind of have a theory in my head of why it might be the case, but we've seen fewer employment claims.
So you're talking about the area of discrimination. Is that right?
Yeah, we were just on that
Yeah, it
chart.
is. Yeah.
Can-
Yes. So I do have that number, area of
the
discrimination.
complaint filings go from 116 to 68, and then they go down even further to
57.
57. And then I'm wondering if they've ticked back up in 2022.
And area. So 2022, our numbers to date were 43. So this is just till today. So we might be in line by the end of the year.
That 43 just employment or total complaints?
Nope, just employment, just employment.
Still, that's, I mean, we are what, 3/4 of the way through
Yeah.
the year. So that seems like it might tick back up to 70 or 80, but still is
Mhm.
far lower than what we saw going back to 2017 to
Yeah,
2019. Do you have
exactly.
any thoughts about why that might be the case? We've seen such a substantial decline.
I don't. Yeah, those are great numbers from 2017, 2000. I mean, not great, but yeah, the decline in that.
Yeah.
But I guess, yeah, it's in line the total number of complaints. So that's what we look at as far as what can we do now? Why is that? So
Yeah.
an uptick in outreach as well. And with the pandemic, there weren't a lot of outreach opportunities. And
Mhm.
it's really just now when people are starting back up. We have had some creative outreach opportunities during the pandemic, and we've attended community councils, which is on Zoom or was on Zoom
Yeah.
for a while. So I think that might also be pandemic related, that we weren't able to do as much outreach as possible.
Yeah, that's certainly possible. It might be an outreach issue.
Yeah.
It also might be like when I was looking at that just intuitively, I was thinking about, for my generation, this is basically the first time I'm a millennial. This is the first time in my generation's existence where we have actual market power. That is to say, if an employer starts to mistreat us, we're just like, okay, there's
Yeah.
other jobs available. There are plenty of jobs available. And that certainly wasn't the case in 2018, 2019.
Mhm.
And you're more likely to fight for a job or fight like if you're being mistreated on a job in a in a tight job market. Or I don't know, how would you even describe that when there is high unemployment. But now, yeah, if an employer is mistreating you, that's their loss. There's almost certainly going to be a job as good or better out there for you. So it's the
Yeah.
first time in my generation's history we have actual power in the marketplace. And I'll tell you that a lot of folks are really upset about it.
Yeah, yeah.
And that might influence the numbers too,
Mhm.
because if
Yeah.
you have the opportunity to get another job,
Right.
you're not necessarily going to file a complaint and go through this process.
Yep.
As opposed to just getting a better job where you don't suffer discrimination.
Yep.
But it brings up another point that I would really like to do a lot of outreach to the business community and be proactive about just educating people about what is discrimination, what is allowable, what is not allowable, and trying to prevent it from even reaching that level. Because I find that a lot of people, they do mean well, but not everybody necessarily understands every nuance of the law as it's passed. And so that's why I feel like outreach is a very important part of our mission. We don't just want to be the hammer that comes down as enforcement, but we also want to be the educators that allow people to understand what the law is so they can avoid it. Because I think most businesses want to be successful. They don't want to lose employees, and they don't want to be part of any enforcement process. They're motivated, and perhaps they just need our help. Thank you.
And if I can add something as well. During that time as well, we had staff shortages, actually. So I was hired March 2019. And before that, the executive director position was vacant for a while, I would say around 6 months. So when I was hired March 2019, no, 2020, March 20, right before the pandemic, I was in my office for a week and then we worked from home. So we got to full staff for a while until we lost someone, an investigator, because of the pandemic. It's just, he went back home to Kansas, I believe. And then our executive director also left and found a great job in Iowa. So I think this is just now, since Mr. Kim was hired, that we are again on full staff, and hasn't happened in a while. So hopefully we all stay. So I think that explains those number two, Assemblymember Dunbar. Great, thank you. And Mr. Peterson.
Go ahead, Mr. Peterson.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. And, trying to come up with a theory, I used to be an employer myself. And with as many help wanted signs in the windows and ads online for personnel, people, they need to hire people. I just think they're hiring whoever walks in the door. I mean, it's sometimes you're just that desperate. I mean, and I've heard people just directly pulling their hair out trying to find people to work. And because some people, they're actually having to close their business down on days that they were normally open because they don't have the people to do the job. So that could have something to do with why there's fewer complaints.
Right. I think so.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson.
So you're saying they would discriminate if they could?
I didn't say that.
All right. I don't see any other assembly members in the queue. Anything else for us? No? Thank you, Ms. Husa. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Kim, for being here today and also for this important work that you do for our community.
Thank you.
And with
Thank you
that,
for your time.
absolutely. Our pleasure. And with that, I wish you all a good weekend. We are adjourned. The next meeting has been canceled, the 2 p.m.